Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in the last lecture, I discussed one topic and that is called ethics versus moral, which was an important topic. And today we are going to discuss another important topic and that is called ethics versus values. So these are the two common differences, and there is one another topic which we will be discussing later, and that is called attitude versus values. We'll cover that also, okay? But right now, let's in this lecture we'll be talking about only ethics versus values. So let's begin. So let's talk about a little brief introduction about both the topics. So ethics and values together lay the foundation of sustainability. So whenever we talk about any organization or we talk about any business, we believe that ethics are important, values are equally important, and that they provide a sustainable ground for any organization to grow, right? But while there are sometimes used synonymously, so that's why what happens at times we use ethics, at times we say values, but there are differences. So what are those differences we are going to discuss in this lecture? So ethics are the set of rules that govern the behavior of a person established by the group of culture. So basically what happens that when we talk about ethics are like the rules and regulations which are made by a society, made by a culture, made by a group, and then every individual belonging to that group or belonging to that culture starts following that behavior. That is called ethics. On the other side, when we talk about values, so values refer to the beliefs for which a person has been enduring preferences. So for example, I could have a preference for something different, and some other person could have a preference for something else, right? So value could differ from one person to another person, but ethics are common which we can share together because we are part of a same culture. Very simple. So when we say in a nutshell that ethics has a little broad perspective, values are more individualistic in nature, okay? Let's move on to the next part, that ethics and values are important in every aspects of life. So when we have to make a choice between two things wherein ethics determine what is right, value determines what is important. Now this is very important point. So what happens is that when we, let's say there is A and there is B, and we have to make a choice whether A is good or whether B is good, and then ethics tells us what is right to do. That comes from the domain of ethics, right? Because it covers from a larger perspective, from a broader perspective, that we should be doing that thing that should be right for everyone, right? On the other side, values becomes more individualistic. So it says that what is important for me, for me important could be A, because, but for the larger perspective, the ideally the ethics is guiding that the choice or the right choice is B. So that's where the dilemma comes into picture, right? So in the world of intense competition, every business entity works on certain principles and beliefs which are nothing but the values. So what happens whenever a company starts their business operations, they always try to write their mission, vision, their philosophies, their principles, their belief, and that is what we called as values, because on those values the companies keeps on working over a period of time. Every employee joining in also learns about the same kind of values. On the other side, when we talk about ethics, so ethics is implemented in organization to protect the interest of stakeholders. And who are these the stakeholders? So these are customers, these are suppliers, employees. So ethic, what as I told you, that ethics is more on the larger perspective, more about society. That means every organization build their code of ethics so that they can protect the interest of every stakeholders, including their customers, their suppliers, their employees, for the society they are working, and the government regulations also for which they are following. So let's now discuss about the differences. So let's discuss from the first point of difference, and that is called the meaning. So, although this particular part has already been explained, that the ethics refers to the guideline of conduct that addresses the question about morality. So, basically, it talks about something which is what is right or what is wrong, and it talks about from the perspective of a group, from the perspective of a culture, from a broader perspective. On the other side, values defined as a principles and ideals that helps them in making judgment about what is more important. So, for me, A, it could be important, but from the larger perspective, B could be more important, right? So we always try to consider B rather than A when we are talking about organization's sustainability, okay? Moving on to the next point we have in this one, what are they? So what are the differences? Ethics is the system of moral principles. As I just told you, that it is all about what is right, what is wrong. On the other side, values is a stimulus for thinking. So it's like thinking is what is more important to me, and these keep on changing also, because for a particular moment something else could be important for me, and at the another point of moment there could be something else which is more important to me, right? So there is a possibility. Moving on to the next difference we have, and that is on the consistency. So based on the consistency, ethics are more uniform in nature, because as I told you, it is not so easy to change ethics because it comes from a larger audience. Everybody is following it, right? So it is very difficult for one person or an individual to change it. On the other side, when we talk about values, it differs from person to person. For me, something else is important. For somebody else, something else is important. And even for a particular person, at one point of time, something else is important. Another point of time, something else is important, right? So that's very important. So that's completely possible. Okay. Moving on to the next difference, and that is what ethics tells and what values tells. So ethics is tells us what is morally correct or incorrect in a given situation. So let's say when we are facing some kind of dilemma and we have to take a decision, so we have to look from a perspective that what is right for a larger audience, right for a larger community. And that's why you will see that a lot of administrators, specifically for like IS officers or maybe anybody who is serving the society, they will always come into that kind of ethical dilemma, that whether I should take those decisions which are more important, or whether I should take those decisions which are more beneficial for the larger audience, right? And other side, values tells us what we want to do or achieve. So basically, when I my priority could be something else, that could be my values. On the other side, ethics could be something completely different, and that's why this dilemma always, or the difference, makes a lot of sense. Let's is what determines ethics and what determines values. So ethics is the extent of rightness or wrongness for our options. So whenever we get an option A, B, C, we have to choose an option which is more right, which is more feasible, which is more beneficial for for a particular group or a community. On the other side, values is all about level of importance, right? For example, right now A is more important, right? Another point of time B is more important. So what I will do, if let's say I have options called A, B, C, so I will rate their importance level, and then based on that, I'll take my decisions. Okay. Moving on, so what it does, so what ethics does and what values does. So basically, ethics are like constraints. Now this is very important. This particular difference is important. Let me explain you why. So ethics is more like constraint, because whenever I want to do something, ethics comes into picture, because my individual preference could be something else, right? So what happens is, whenever I want to do A, but why I'm not able to do it, because ethics comes in between, because ethics says A is not good, B is good, right? So it is more like constraint. On the other side, values is like a motivator. So because when I see A, so I believe it is important for me, so I should be very motivated to do A, right? So value motivates an individual. On the other side, ethics constrain them. They stop them from doing what they are doing, right? They might take another decision because they believe that ethically that is more right, and in terms of values the other option was more right. So let's talk about the conclusion of this topic, that while ethics is consistently applied over the period and remains same for all the human beings, so I told you, whenever we are part of a group or a community, ethics becomes more important, more sustainable, because it is more consistent in nature, and it is same for all the human beings who are living in a particular society or a particular culture, or particularly in a part of a particular group. On the other side, values are more individualistic, so it varies from person to person, but remains stable till the time something happens, or some emotional event happens, or something with change of time happens, right? So for a particular moment of time, a task could be important, and once we achieve it, or once we something happens in my life, or something which is more emotional to me, then I change my preferences from A to B, or maybe B to C. Okay, so I hope that you like this particular lecture, you understood this topic. So thanks for watching. If you really like my content, do like, share, and subscribe. We'll be meeting in the next lecture. We'll be talking about more ethics in the following lectures, because we want to complete this syllabus. Okay, thank you.